Hi, this is Tanner Smith, and I'm going to talk to you about Manila's Finest. Actually, I'm just going to call it DC and Jess Part 2, because that's really what it is. I called it Manila's Finest, I didn't call it DC and Jess Part 2, mainly because I was trying to get this shown at festivals, and I didn't want to just merely associate it as a sequel to something, especially if the festivals haven't played the original film DC and Jess before. But you know what, the film is on YouTube, and I'm going to call it DC and Jess Part 2, because that's really what it is. A continuation with these characters. And yeah, this is me and Holly Braden reprising our roles from the original film, and I just came up with the script for this just shortly after I made the first movie, because like I loved the characters and I wanted to do some more with them, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with them. I wanted to have them leave town and visit DC's mother, and
It's been a while.
I wanted to bring in new characters too, like Jess's brother Jim, DC's grandmother.
Get inside. I'm already late.
Well, DC's mother, of course.
Oh, you're working here now?
Yeah.
As what, a cashier?
And this first scene here was shot just outside the farmer's market, where they have my favorite pizza. This is the pizza I grew up with. It's actually a Pizza Pro in Delhi, but there's a billboard that's behind the counter called Manila's Finest, so I just call it Manila's Finest.
It's the only pizza in
And I do love the pizza. It's
So? It's the pizza I grew up with.
every other pizza tastes like grandma's teeth, like my character says here. How would you know what that tastes like? DC says. Oh yeah, that little pizza I'm holding there was actually that was actually a very old pizza that I picked up
I know you said you were late. and I probably-
at the counter, because like they sometimes have small pizzas like ready, and they'll leave them out there for like a couple of days or so. I think this one was there for like 2 or 3 days, because like when I tasted that piece of pizza, it tasted awful. It tasted so old. So we've already established that DC and Jess haven't seen each other in a while. You get the impression that they might have broken up. And this is 6 months after the original film took place. This is Christmas break. Oh, look at that pizza. I want some right now.
Ah, damn right, Manila's Finest.
Damn right, Manila's Finest. Yeah, okay. There's the Manila sign, obviously. Okay, now let's talk about Candace Hinkle, best known as the boarding house lady in the Coen Brothers adaptation of True Grit. Oh man, was she game. Totally game. And I was afraid to approach her with the role at first, because like
Yeah, they seem to be
it,
having trouble no matter
this
who
was
they're
made with very little money. I wasn't gonna be able to pay her anything. I should probably talk about like how I know her, how I first met her and stuff. Well, it was the 2012 Little Rock Film Festival, and my dad and I were standing in line waiting for a screening, or no, I think it was a short film block, but whatever. Standing in front of us was Candace Hinkle and a friend, and I wanted to make conversation because she and I were in a film called 45 RPM. Like, we didn't share any scenes, we didn't meet each other like during production of that, but we were in the same film, just in different scenes. So when I told her that, like, we got to talking, we were like having small talk, and we were also talking about a reality show that I was a set coordinator on, which I am not going to say here, but she knew about that show, and we got to talk about that too. And about a year later, she was in a film that I was doing behind the scenes for, called Collection Day, and we had another great conversation. She's a great person to talk to, and she'll listen to you like whenever you have to talk about something, and
Grandma and I were talking about Mom.
she has some fascinating stories to tell about acting and about being in True Grit.
Not an issue for us.
And
That's true, right?
I think it was after that day that I felt confident enough to ask her, hey, so I got this movie that I'm filming over Christmas break. Would you like to be in it for this one day?
Anyway, she did
And
send
she
me a
said
check.
that she would love to, that she'd be delighted to. And I was like, yes, awesome. Okay.
Was there a return address?
When I told Holly that this woman who was in True Grit was going to be playing her grandmother, she was delighted.
Don't you think I should
And
come back?
she got along really well with Candace when they first met each other.
Well, what are you gonna do with
They
the
just
check?
hit it off really
Are you
well,
gonna
and
throw it away?
it was great. It was like magic,
No, she
watching
doesn't
magic
really
happen
know.
before me on
I
screen,
mean, she always cares
on
for
camera.
space a little since she sent it. And at least this way I can get some Xbox games and stuff for the boys.
And I'm sorry.
Maybe
Okay,
she'll
this
come
is
down and visit you guys.
this is Rachel Braden.
It's okay.
This is Holly's younger
I guess
sister,
we'll
and
use
she
some
was
special
originally
features.
just a production assistant because we needed help in the days that we were shooting with Candace. And we had an original actress play this role of Shannon, who was DC's confidant, like her neighbor. And the original actress wasn't able to do it anymore, and so I just immediately thought of Rachel because I thought that she could pull it off, and she did. That's a neat transition. I like that. Okay. This is Daniel Lee Harris playing Jess's brother, Jim, and oh man, I'm distracted by the denim I'm wearing. Denim jacket. I thought that was cool back in the day. Okay, anyway. This was this sorry. We were in the same short horror film called Camp Out together, and we just sort of became friends, during that production, and I knew he was a good actor, and I knew that he would want to, like, be in my films if I offered him some roles, and I just gave him the role of Jim. He's a fun guy to work with, and since then we've worked on about 3 or 4 other projects together, like Home for the Week, and my 48-hour film Shoe Polish, my feature film The Focusing Effect. Yep. Awesome guy. I'm sorry, I'm just too distracted by the fact that I'm wearing a denim jacket. Okay, well. Alright, here you're about to see DC just trip over some toys that are just being scattered all over the floor. This is to establish like the boys' presence, mainly because I couldn't get the original actors who played the 2 little boys to reprise their roles in this sequel, because like they originally were written in the film. There was going to be a dinner scene that shows some conflict in the relationship between DC and her brothers, because like it just seems that the boys resent their mother leaving, and they also resent their older sister for trying to take over the role as parent. That would have been a really good scene to shoot, but unfortunately the boys actually live in Texas, and I thought that they were going to come down for Christmas break, which is when I was shooting the movie, but they didn't, so I had to just write out the scene altogether. So I had to make up for it by showing a flashback of a scene from the original film, which is of the 2 boys running. I put it in slow motion, and they're mentioned a lot, so I think their presence is here, but
From the bar.
I do sort of wish that we were able to film that dinner scene.
Jess, I remember you.
I would have liked to see them act in that dramatic role as well.
Did you catch the parade last weekend?
This is Rachel Lovelace, who has a small role as a British girl named Emily. I don't know why I made her British. I think, okay, actually, I do know why I made her British. I made her British so that Jess can seem a little more shallow without DC in his life, and I think that he mainly wanted to call her up and ask her on a date mainly because of the accent. Because the British accent is one of the most attractive accents in the world.
Even though you're just their sister.
No question about it.
Not feel trapped.
And here we have footage from the first DC and Jess film, which I put in black and white
To get out of town.
to establish the past,
Not wondering
obviously.
what it would be like if you took those little boys and just left them at their grandma's.
And once again, you see Holly Braden just nailing these dramatic scenes here, doing a really good job. And this is where she decides, you know what, forget all this. I'm just gonna go find my mother, because it's been so long since we've seen each other, and some things have to be said. So I gotta do this. And she's doing it.
Hey, Grandma? Yeah. You said
Okay,
you
what
know
else
where
can I talk
Mom
about?
is, right?
She goes dark
This house that we were shooting in was actually Tony Gishwain's house. I mentioned Tony in my commentary for New Horizon. He was the director of Camp Out, which starred me and Daniel. Daniel was kind of a gaffer for us, helping us out with lighting and stuff like that. And Oh, and also, you get a brief glimpse of the movie that he and I are watching in this scene. That movie is actually Camp Out, when the actor Joe Farah takes
I
um,
barely even think about DC anymore.
a snack card and just slams it against someone. We don't see the the person being slammed. We just see him throw it. Here it is, right here. Pow. Yeah. Okay, this is this house used to belong to Andrew McMurray of Nukazuka, who I mentioned in previous commentaries.
Try to talk to her at least.
Helped me out quite a lot with my previous films back in the day.
Me too.
He was actually out of town when we were shooting this film, and Candace lived near Little Rock, and so I obviously had to come to Little Rock because I couldn't just ask her to come to Manila to shoot this scene, obviously. So I needed a house, and thankfully Andrew's place seemed very homey, so he was going to be out of town, and so he just said I could have a spare key and just use the place. And I also brought a bunch of Christmas decorations from my parents' house to show that it takes place during Christmas time, and it took a lot of production design, and yeah, it was really cool. So thank you, Andrew McMurray. Oh, and I mentioned in the New Horizon commentary that I tend to use Andrew and his cousin Matthew's song "Step Aside" just any way I can, and this was the first time I got to use it. Well, I mean, not including the 2013 48-hour film in which that actually was introduced. This is the first time I got to use it in a narrative film. That was a song DC was listening to on the radio before she has this flat tire.
Jess.
Hey, you okay? What happened?
This was the first scene that we shot together. Once again, set outside the First Baptist Church, where the back half of the first film took place.
Little Rock.
Yeah, Little Rock.
What's in Little Rock?
And this is the place that put them back together again for this journey to Little Rock.
My mom.
What?
Yeah,
I guess I
my
should talk
mom
about
was supposed to meet her today.
the trip to Little Rock. I mean, the actual trip to Little Rock, not the trip to Little Rock in the movie. It was kind of a crazy day, really.
When was the last time you saw her?
First, I picked up Holly and her sister Rachel, and then I picked up another guy who was helping out with the camera. His name is Anthony Benham. Also lives in Manila. And we just set out for like a crazy schedule of shooting.
Tour or something so I can see what it's like.
And it's how it started was we went to Capitol Avenue first.
We'll go to Little
We
Rock,
just
we'll take care of your business with your mom.
filmed the scenes in which DC and Jess are walking around, and they notice the Capitol building, and they're looking for the place where
Sweet.
they're meeting DC's mother,
Hey, Jess.
and also the scenes in which DC is crying and Jess has to console her, comfort her.
I mean, I really appreciate it.
And then after that,
Hey.
we were running a little behind schedule, so we just made a mad dash for Andrew's house, which thankfully wasn't that far away, but still a bit out of the ways. And then Candace showed up, and she brought some different outfits, and I just
Alright, cool,
told her,
Shannon,
like, I
thanks.
picked out one in particular. I was
talk
like,
to you later.
here, wear that one. Okay. We shot her, both of her scenes, like probably within an hour and a half, I think. And
Oh, yeah, I know her.
that was just,
We went,
it was just so much fun getting to work with her. She got along really well with Holly and Anthony and Rachel,
Anyway, she's
and
gonna talk to you.
she took my direction really well, even though my direction was a little shoddy, but
No, not at all. She's
well, I
patient
mean, she
and
didn't say anything about
listens.
that, thankfully.
The problem is I'm worried I'm gonna make her afraid of her own future.
Yeah, and then once all that was
I
done,
mean,
we
she's gonna think that after
we
she
undecorated the
graduates,
place. We packed
her will
everything
be
up.
a
We sent
second
Candace on her way, and then we
whereas,
headed for home. Picked up Subway on the way back.
unexpected is mine or yours.
But then I sort of got a little lost,
Depends on whether or not
and
she
then I
gets
had to
it.
go a different way. It was a longer way, but it was the only way I knew how to get back. And
By the way, don't be so hard
it
on
didn't
Jim.
make matters even
He's
better
probably
that we were
just like
going through
Angie is,
a
that's
crazy
why it's raining and
thunderstorm.
raining.
It was raining really hard, and
I'm 21 years old.
almost caused us to get into an accident where thankfully everyone was okay. We didn't get into an accident at all. Like we had a close call, but that was about it.
You're like Andy Samberg in that.
And then we finally got back to Manila, and it was just a nice, fun day to look back on.
Look, I didn't pick that fight. I just participated.
Whatever.
Oh, and that scene where it's just, driving along the road and you hear DC and Jess's dialogue, like talking about certain things, was actually a conversation that was intended to be sort of like seeing DC and Jess just like driving and like having a conversation together. It was gonna be like
Getting by.
one take on the dashboard, but it didn't really turn out so well, and so I just thought I need to show more of these guys' journey, and I need to see more of Arkansas too. So I just decided to make it more more voiceover.
Yeah, how long has it been? 3 years almost?
Nice enough.
And we're filming here at a park that is
I don't know.
actually not between Manila and Little Rock. It's actually just outside of Manila in a town called Monette. And I
Checking out Central Arkansas.
try to make it as simple as possible, not having everything be in Little Rock and having everything else just be closer to Manila.
Like here or just anywhere outside of Manila?
I don't know. I'm an Arkansas, born and raised. I guess I'm gonna move from.
I'm not entirely sure the
Northeast Arkansas, I might
sound
as well
worked
come to
here
Central.
because like,
There's a lot of stuff going on.
well, I mean, I wasn't
here.
using camera audio like I
Lot
did
of
with TC and
underground
Jess, but I
music,
did use like a little
stuff.
plug-in microphone that I attached
Maybe I
to
could
the
record something like that.
the DSLR that I was using. It was a Canon T2i, which was owned to me by Andrew McBurry. Thank you.
I wouldn't mind either way. Just to get to do something I haven't done
I think you could
before,
hear things just okay, but it just showed that I definitely needed another mic, like a shotgun mic,
Community college.
which thankfully I have, which is what I'm using to record this commentary with.
Use my scholarship to see if I could write something and get it
And
published, you know what I
an
mean?
interesting thing about this scene is this is a scene in which DC and Jess are,
At
well,
least you had
I
a
mean Jess at
chance.
least,
God
is
knows
saying
you
what is on his
would.
mind, what's really
I couldn't
bugging him
even
about
know
this
it.
whole
I
thing.
had to get jobs, take
That
care
he
of
and DC
work
are back
life.
together, they're doing something together for like the first time in, what, 4 or 5 months? And before this, like after he and DC broke up, they just sort of broke contact with each other, which kind of bothered Jess because
Well,
they were
I
great
think
friends
you're
before they
better
became
this than I
a
am.
couple, sort of a
We haven't
couple.
really talked in quite some time. Excuse me if I don't
And that's
have
what really
anything
bothered
constructive
him.
to say.
Well, we're here now.
And
Why can't
the
we
interesting
be
thing
together
about
less
this
than a month?
is it was actually based on a real life conversation between me and a female friend.
Because if you recall, we were pretty good friends before we became official, if you want to call
I
it
first
that.
transferred to UCA, and we were like
Still have all
becoming
the
these like
phone conversations.
really great friends. We were like
Seems every time I call, you're either busy or you're just ignoring
really
me.
great companions, really great
Well, I'm sorry if I don't have time
confidants.
to drop everything that I have to do to
And
take
then
care of your
over the summer, after that semester at
Don't
UCA,
make it seem like that, okay?
she just
I just miss you.
didn't want to
that's
talk to me. And
Besides, I miss someone new.
and then finally, when we got back together
She's
for
nice, she's
school,
fun
I
to
just
talk to, she's
told her
British,
like what was
I met her
bothering me,
before.
and just like we were great friends. Like, why are you like breaking off a contact like this without like explaining why and everything? And she explained why.
I get bored.
She thought that we were becoming uncomfortably close, maybe a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, which she wasn't ready for. And I said, that wasn't what I was looking for. I was just looking for someone to talk to, like a great friend, you know?
Even now, when I was,
And
I was driving
the
by,
conversation just like went on and on like that. And
UCA. I was
pretty
on my
much
way to a date.
what you hear from DC and Jess in this scene is sort of
But I did
the
because I
conversation
wanted to
between
help
me and
you.
her. I sort of took it word for word. I mixed up a little things, a few little things here and there, but for the most part, it's the same situation. That's a grilled cheese sandwich. That's a really delicious grilled cheese sandwich.
You're gonna leave. What? It'll hit you sometime, you know.
There,
Come up with enough money.
there originally was more dialogue when DC joined Jess at the car,
Job and find a new life elsewhere.
which DC apologizes to Jess because like she was confused and he didn't deserve to like be shut out like that because like she remembers that they were great friends, and
Maybe I would.
the reason that Jess is doing this is mainly just out of friendship. Nothing else. The theme of this film is pretty much just abandonment issues, because you have DC feeling abandoned because like her mother, who she hasn't seen in like 3 years, just pretty much walked out on her and her brothers, and then you have Jess feeling abandoned mainly because of DC alienating him. And by the end of the film, they've sort of learned to cope with like whatever they're dealing with, and yeah, I think they become better people at the end. There's the Capitol building.
Now, do you know where we're going?
Yeah,
It's
I
glory.
think so. Just look for a sign
This
or
is where I
something
may
that
have,
says
this is
Community
where I
Theater.
may have fudged up a little bit because like I don't think there is a theater on Capitol Avenue. There's a theater near Capitol Avenue, the Studio Theater, but it's not on Capitol Avenue. But whatever, fudging the facts. This theater here was actually filmed in Blytheville, where I used to go to community college, about 30 miles outside of Manila. Speaking of Manila, this is a teacher from Manila High School, Jerry McCann. She was my French teacher in 10th and 12th grade.
Dana?
Really nice person. She doesn't normally act, but I thought that she had the natural poise that would sell the role of DC's mother really well. Someone who is someone who means well, someone who's kind of a people pleaser, but in the end, she's just gonna let you down. That that's not what Mrs. McCann is like that at all. I'm just saying that that's how I wanted her to play the role, and she did it really well.
So what brings you two here?
Oh, well,
And here we have Jess figuring out that the whole thing was actually just not set up at all, and that DC had no idea what she was going to do when she met her mother, and Jess is just sort of um, sticking up for her, just sort of
Got a problem.
handling the situation the best way he can, just trying to be there for DC.
Yeah, well adjusted. Lots.
But the problem is, because Jess is a little more talkative than DC is, DC's mother wants to know more about him, and because of that, she kind of ignores the fact that her own daughter is standing right there, and she came all this way to see her, and they haven't seen each other in a long time.
What about vanilla? Do you still like vanilla?
Oh, yeah, Mano's fine.
And this is another example of Holly's great acting, because like she has no dialogue, like very little dialogue here, and she has to act pretty much with her face and her body language, and she nails it. What can I say? She's absolutely perfect in the role. She is DC. I don't see Holly Braden in this scene. I see DC.
He dropped out. He works at the farmer's market.
I'm sorry, I keep calling her Holly Braden, but she's actually married now, so it's Holly Abbott.
What about the rest of the town? Is it still the same old, same old?
So that's my bad, Holly, if you're listening to this.
No, well, I haven't noticed any food buildings being torn down, but I didn't really know what they were anyway, so I guess I don't care. But
What the hell else can I talk about here? I feel like I've said a lot of more important things.
so it's great service, great food,
Well,
everything.
Still have about 101 churches around town too, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Small towns in Arkansas, that's how
This film is
Exactly.
more well made, I think, than the first DC and Jess film, but it didn't go on to any festivals unlike the previous film did, which kind of hurts, but I think I can understand why.
Excuse me for a moment, that's my boss.
It is a little long for festival programming and everything, so I understand that.
Yeah, why?
Whereas this film is 28 minutes, the previous film was 14 minutes.
It wasn't. Just don't you get it? It's Christmas.
And also there is
Dinner, it's so long.
some
There's really no
technical
time to
difficulties,
remember
such as the sound, which I already brought up in the gazebo scene.
DC, what do you
But I just think thematically the film is a little stronger.
You do. Okay, do you remember that day in the church when we were talking? You kept
It's one of those times when I'm taking,
just leave
like,
Brandon and Luke behind, just let someone else look
it's
after
one of those times when I took what I learned from UCA film courses and just bringing it to life.
DC, don't you get it?
Some parts I think I did it well, other parts I think I still needed a little more to learn, which obviously because I was still I still had 2 years to go
Hey,
when I
I'm
was filming
very,
this.
very sorry, but I've got to manage this next show, and I'm afraid it's going to take a while.
Okay, well maybe we can meet up afterwards.
Well, no, it's going to take all night, and I'm just going to be...
Holly was such a good actress in this film that it just felt like she didn't need any direction from me, and so whenever I tried to give her directions, I felt kind of like a jackass because like she already knew exactly what she had to do and she didn't need my help in the slightest. I could tell she was getting a little annoyed with me.
Do you have to be so damn polite?
What?
She was more
I don't even think that was acting there. I think
than if
she
Brandon
was
and
just
Luke were over there.
saying it like she felt because, God, do you have to be so damn polite? I think I was being too damn polite.
This is our third Christmas without her, and it was
in the
like
film
she
and
was
in
just
person.
running into an old friend or something.
Oh, this music here was also done by Andrew McMurray. A lot of the pieces here were done by Andrew and Matthew. Matthew did that soft piano piece you heard on the on the road. Yeah. Okay, what else can I talk about? There was supposed to be a finale to this DC and Jess trilogy. It was going to be called Visiting, and I was hoping to film it the following summer. It was going to be where DC's mother finally leaves Little Rock and comes back to Manila, and she meets DC and tells her that she knows that she messed up really badly, and she wants to start anew. She wants to reconnect with DC and Brandon and Luke. And DC is just not sure that she should let her because of what she's done. I actually wrote that script. I workshopped it in one of my classes at UCA, and everybody seemed to like it. I think we were gonna make it like sometime over the summer, but like things just fell through, and unfortunately it just wasn't gonna be done. I still would love to, if Holly's interested. Because as I said in the previous commentary for DC and Jess, I could have found anyone else to play Jess, but there's no one else that could play DC. I think Holly nailed it. Yep.
Screw the future. Screw the dream. Screw all I had in mind when I graduated high school. It's time to live in the now. Whatever
DC and Jess
happens,
Part 2 is
me and Brandon and
still
Luke,
one of my favorite films of my own.
Shannon, and you.
There are certain things I wish I could have done a little better, but just like with DC and Jess, which it took even less to get, made. Just like with that, I just
And neither do I.
there's just something about looking back on the experience and knowing that I was getting better and better at filmmaking, and also looking back on the film and just like seeing what I was trying to do and seeing where I succeeded and seeing where I failed. I just look back with fond memories. Yeah, there are some people who have watched this film and are saying that they have felt something. A positive something, not a negative something. I know it's too easy a joke. So that's worth it in the end, when you actually get through to someone. And that pretty much wraps it up for this commentary for DC and Jess Part 2. I'm really sorry about the dead pauses in between my rambling here. I'm just, like I said in the previous commentaries, I don't take notes when I do these things. So, oh yeah, we went all over Arkansas for this. Okay, like I said, I don't take notes when I do these commentaries, so I just say what's on my mind. I hope you were able to get through it okay, and yeah, I'll see you in the next commentary. Take care.